Okay, so if you've spent any time at all lately Googling something like average 401k balance by age, you already know the truth. The sheer volume of financial advice out there in 2026 is completely overwhelming. Between shifting tax laws, these massive inflation hangovers we're dealing with, and experts literally arguing over every single dollar, it's exhausting trying to figure out if you're actually on track or falling dangerously behind. But hey, you are in the right place. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking the most vital, data-backed insights from the top financial minds of the year, we're cutting through all that noise, and we're decoding exactly what it takes to build and keep wealth today.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to organize this chaotic landscape of advice into 4 clear, digestible themes today. Number 1, the modern wealth problem. Number 2, redefining net worth milestones. 3, the new retirement math. And finally, number 4, wealth without the burnout.
All right, Section 1, the modern wealth problem, navigating our current financial anxieties.
Look, right now there is this widespread, almost invisible financial anxiety hitting literally every single working generation. And it's happening because the fundamental landscape of money has drastically shifted right beneath our feet. To really understand why, we have to look at Bob Sharp's recent viral analysis on average net worth by age, and his conclusion is pretty stark. We genuinely have a problem. The gap between what people think they should have saved and what they actually have saved is wider than ever. Basically, we've been operating on financial assumptions from 20 years ago, applying them to a 2026 economy, and then wondering why the math simply isn't adding up.
And nowhere is this more apparent than with Gen X. As highlighted by channels like Even Better Retirement, there's a massive, completely unexpected shift in how Gen X has to approach their rapidly approaching retirement years. They're essentially the guinea pig generation, right? They're the very first to rely almost entirely on 401ks rather than traditional pensions, and they're trying to do this while navigating soaring healthcare costs and elder care for their own parents. Does that sound familiar? The realization is hitting hard. The old playbook is completely useless for them.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because panic is definitely not a strategy. John the Lazy Investor recently laid out this brilliant blueprint for exactly what to do if you find yourself at age 40 realizing you have to rebuild everything from absolute zero. Step 1 is totally psychological. Accept the reset. No shame, no guilt, just own it. Step 2 is strategizing aggressive saving, ruthlessly cutting the fat. And step 3 is implementing accelerated investing. So you don't have 40 years for compound interest to do that slow drip anymore. You need high conviction, highly optimized asset allocation right now.
Moving on to Section 2, redefining net worth milestones. These are the new targets for 2026.
So, John the Lazy Investor points out 6 crucial money stages we all go through. You start out, you pay down debt, and eventually you hit accumulation and compounding. But I really want to draw your attention to Stage 3, the danger zone. This is where most people get disastrously stuck. This is that stage where you start making real money, but lifestyle creep sets in big time. You know the bigger house, you lease the nicer car, and suddenly, your shiny high income is entirely consumed by high liabilities. Escaping Stage 3 is literally the ultimate key to wealth.
Now, for decades, escaping that danger zone and hitting $1 million was the ultimate American dream. But according to some recent hard-hitting analysis from Money Logic, $1 million is just no longer the magic number where your wealth suddenly explodes. Thanks to inflation and the incredibly high cost of modern living, $1 million today offers a safety net for sure, but it absolutely doesn't provide the total lifestyle freedom it used to. It's a stepping stone now. It is not the finish line.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is what the new target actually looks like. Financial experts like Tae Kim pinpoint $2.5 million as the perfect new sweet spot for wealth. Why? Because at $2.5 million, your portfolio generates enough passive income to truly replace a comfortable upper-middle-class salary without ever touching the principal. This is the new threshold where money stops being a source of stress and transforms into a tool for complete time freedom.
But hey, before you let that $2.5 million number intimidate you, let me ask you, are you in the top 5% without even realizing it? John the Lazy Investor highlights that so many people feel behind just because they're comparing themselves to billionaires on social media. But really think about this. Do you have zero high-interest debt? Do you consistently match your employer's 401k? And do you actually live below your means? If you just said yes to those 3 things, you are far closer to the top 5% of retirees than you probably think. Perspective here is absolutely everything.
All right, Section 3, the new retirement math. We're looking at outdated rules versus modern strategy.
If there is only one thing you take away from this entire explainer, please let it be this. The 4% rule, the golden rule of retirement advising you to withdraw 4% of your portfolio annually, is under massive fire. John the Lazy Investor recently broke down Vanguard's massive 51-page report, which fundamentally challenges the safety of this traditional rule. With longer life expectancies and wild market volatility, blindly withdrawing 4% could literally leave you out of money in your 80s. Vanguard's research absolutely destroyed this premise. The new math demands flexibility, not fixed percentages.
And what about that classic financial tug-of-war, investing in the market versus paying off all your debt? Well, Nick Invest argues that the wealthy already know the definitive answer to this. While pure math often suggests that investing yields a higher return than your mortgage interest rate, the reality is that carrying massive debt into a volatile market adds incredible risk. So the modern strategy is a true hybrid, aggressively killing high-interest debt while ensuring you never ever miss a year of market compounding.
We also see the same math battle when comparing real estate returns to stock market returns. Logical Money's recent breakdown of the real math between physical real estate and paper stocks is just fascinating. Stocks offer unmatched liquidity and truly passive returns. On the flip side, real estate offers incredible leverage and tax advantages, but it comes with property taxes, maintenance, and illiquidity. The new retiring math doesn't say pick one. It says you need to deeply understand the hidden costs of both before choosing your primary wealth vehicle. So, the crucial point is understanding when your money actually takes on a life of its own. Dan Wilson presents this fascinating concept. There is a mathematical tipping point where aggressive saving actually loses its power against compounding interest. Think about it. If you have an $800,000 portfolio, a good market month might earn you $16,000. Skipping a few coffees to save an extra $100 literally barely matters to your bottom line anymore. Once you hit this critical mass, your job shifts from saving to managing.
And a huge part of that managing phase means avoiding modern financial sinkholes. Retire with Julia, a certified financial planner, warns that there are 5 things that are simply no longer worth spending your money on once you hit retirement age. We're talking about costly Medicare enrollment mistakes, draining your wealth through high-fee mutual funds, holding on to overpriced whole life insurance policies you just don't need anymore, falling into unnecessary tax traps, and clinging to excessive housing costs for a giant empty nest.
Speaking of tax traps, let's briefly touch on a wildly contrarian, yet super vital perspective from Jeremy Finger, another CFP. We constantly hear that we should be doing Roth conversions to avoid future taxes, right? But Jeremy points out why, for some people, popular Roth conversions can actually be a truly awful idea and a terrible trap. If you convert during your peak earning years, you're paying massive taxes today to avoid taxes in the future when you might actually be in a much lower tax bracket anyway. You have to do your own math, not just follow the crowd. Which brings us to our final theme today. Section 4, Wealth Without the Burnout, Optimizing Your Lifestyle. Take Rachel Camp's brilliant strategy for a 50-year-old who feels completely behind. She outlines an exact timeline where you can aggressively implement a rapid catch-up plan at 50, drive hard into a peak accumulation phase at 54, and successfully sprint across the finish line to execute an early retirement by age 58. It requires intense focus, yes, but it proves that an 8-year acceleration can entirely change the trajectory of your life without requiring you to just grind until you're 70 years old. And a massive part of avoiding burnout in those later years is engineering true peace of mind. Mark shares some incredible insights on what no one tells you about a fully paid-off home in retirement. The spreadsheet math might tell you to keep a 3% mortgage and invest your cash, but the profound psychological and financial relief of having zero housing payment, that dramatically lowers your stress. It lowers your required monthly income, and it protects you entirely from market downturns. And this brilliantly illustrates Mark's 3 clear signs that you are financially ahead of the vast majority of retirees. First, your debt-to-income ratio is virtually zero. Second, you have multiple automated income streams, so not just one pension or one 401k. And third, your lifestyle costs haven't inflated with your wealth. If you can check these 3 boxes, you have achieved true financial armor. Now, for some people, lifestyle optimization means thinking globally. Evan Att interviewed 10 expats, revealing something pretty amazing. Leveraging geographic arbitrage is a very real, incredibly effective strategy in 2026. By moving abroad to places with a significantly lower cost of living, you can drastically lower the cost of your retirement. You are effectively doubling the power of your portfolio, all while often upgrading your quality of life, your access to affordable healthcare, and, your daily sunshine. Ultimately, as Nick Invest's beautifully summarized, the true purpose of all this data isn't to make you panic,
It's to inform you in a responsible, educational way so you can create sustainable financial growth. Financial freedom isn't about stressful comparison. It's about designing a lifestyle that optimizes your well-being, avoids burnout, and lets you actually enjoy the time your money buys you.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. We've seen today that the old rules are just gone. The 4% rule is broken, and $1 million just isn't enough to guarantee the dream anymore. The experts say 2.5 million might be the new standard, but personal finance is exactly that. It's personal. I challenge you to take the insights from today's explainer, sit down with your own numbers, and calculate your own unique target. What is your new personal sweet spot for ultimate financial independence? The math is waiting for you.